All right, so big news in the NBA just had a major trade happen completely out of nowhere. That's one thing you have to love about being an NBA fan is things could be dead silent for a while. Then you look up and a blockbuster trade happens. It kind of happened the same time around, nearly around this time last year, where there was not much going on at this point in time. And out of nowhere, that Damian Lillard trade ends up happening. And this trade isn't on the same caliber as that Lillard trade, but still, complete silence. No real speculation at this point in time. And then now we look up and Karl Anthony Towns is a New York Knick and Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo are a part of the Minnesota Timberwolves. So let's kind of talk about the basketball side of things. This move doesn't really make me look at any of these teams differently. So for one, if I'm looking at the Timberwolves, I have not been the biggest fan of Karl Anthony Towns over the last couple of seasons with his style of play, his inconsistency in the playoffs and things like that. I think they could have still survived and competed over these next couple of years with him on the roster, but I did see a world where moving him away to get some pieces back would be beneficial. But the pieces they got back in Dante DiVincenzo and Julius Randle, I don't know if those are needle moving moves. I do think Julius Randle is a better shot creator than Karl Anthony Towns at this point in his career. And maybe that pays some dividends back come playoff time. But what are we doing with Julius Randle when he's playing off the ball? Julius Randle is not a great off the ball player. I think one thing about Julius Randle is when he's not operating as a primary shot creator, what else is he bringing to the table? What other value is he providing? So if you look at the Timberwolves, Anthony Edwards is their guy, flat out. And if Randle's kind of relegated to an off-ball role, how effective is he within that role? So that's kind of the concern there with Julius Randle being here. And that's one thing Cat could do a little bit better than Randle is Cat could exist as like a second fiddle guy. Cat could do things well playing off the ball. You can run situations where Cat is kind of stretching the floor and he's knocking down shots from the perimeter off the catch. Can't do that just as much with Julius Randle. Now, I do think Julius Randle plays a bigger, tougher style of basketball than Cat, and that is a benefit that he does bring to the table for this Timberwolves group. But again, it's not really super needle moving for this team. I like the pickup of Dante DiVincenzo, really good 3-and-D guy, really good floor stretcher, one of the best catch and shoot shooters in the entire league. But again, it doesn't completely change my perception on this Timberwolves team. Then let's go and look at the Knicks. I like the fit with Cat being here in New York. He does solve some size issues. We knew there was a big deficiency for them when it came to size after losing Isaiah Hartenstein. Now your bigs are kind of looking like Karl Anthony Towns, Jericho Sims, Mitchell Robinson, and there's also Precious Achiuwa kind of sprinkled in there. So they did get a little bit better from a size perspective. Here, you're not going to ask Karl Anthony Towns to do too much on the offensive end. There can be nights where he can go off and be the best player on the court. But again, the benefit here is he can exist as like a number two, maybe number three or lesser option within the offense, while Randle struggled with that at times last season when playing alongside with Brunson. And I think he would have struggled with that this coming season if he was sticking on this team playing alongside with Bridges and Brunson. And that's kind of one thing. Maybe this trade for New York was about getting Randle into a newer situation. Things were not looking super pretty throughout the offseason, throughout the last couple of weeks with Julius Randle in New York. There was that entire situation where I think he saw that his jersey wasn't on sale in some New York store or whatever the case may be. It rubbed him the wrong way. There was like this sentiment that he felt where he was being pushed out a bit. Right? Like you could kind of feel that a little bit as a fan. I don't want to act like I know there was tension building, but as a fan, you kind of felt that there was some tension building, right? So maybe the front office for the New York Knicks were kind of like, hey, let's get him into a different situation and let's bring in a guy who's willing to play a lesser role so we're not having these tension issues. Because right now, if you look at the Knicks, they're trying to contend flat out. And you can't have like these internal conflicts at all. They have a strong culture and identity, and they have to maintain that strong culture and identity. And a part of that is making sure that all of the guys are on the same page. And I didn't get the vibe that Julius Randle, the Knicks organization, and the new guys that they brought in were all on the same page. With Karl Anthony Towns, Yes, I have my complaints about his game and his playing style at this point in his career and some of the immaturity in his game. But I do think Karl Anthony Towns is more suited to play in different roles night in and night out, to put on some different hats. And there's the benefit that he brings, right? Karl Anthony Towns is what I call role versatile, where he can play different roles here and there. And it's not going to be a complaint with him if he's not the number one option on some nights, right? I mean, he brought into the Minnesota Timberwolves culture when Ant kind of took over and became the guy. He seamlessly kind of fit into this newer role. It was a lesser role sometimes. There were other nights, like I said, where he was their best guy, but Cat is somebody who can fit within different roles. And I think that's what the Knicks need here, because there are going to be nights where it's a different guy every single night, every single game, being the best player. Like I said, there are going to be nights where it's Bridges, where it's Brunson, and where it's Karl Anthony Towns. And I think he's more suited to play within that type of situation than Julius Randle is at this point in his career. So if I could pick a winner of this trade, and I don't really like talking about winners and losers of a trade because a trade is supposed to be mutually beneficial for both parties, depending on whatever situation they're in. But looking at this trade, I'll pick the Knicks. Again, the Cat move doesn't make them like that much more of a contender than what they were before. I still thought they were a legitimate contender before this trade ended up happening, but I see the fit. I see the vision. I do think Cat is suited to play a role within this offense that Julius Randle maybe would have struggled with a bit playing in this coming season here for the New York Knicks. And for the Timberwolves, like I said, it's not a bad move, right? It's not one that's putting you out of contention, but it's not really totally moving the needle for you. And there could be some more moves made down the road here for the Wolves, but it'll be very interesting seeing how they kind of flip this, how things end up turning out. Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards fit is pretty intriguing, right? And pretty interesting to see. So we'll see how things end up turning out here for this Timberwolves squad. Again, not totally counting them out. Still a really good core of role players and things like that. But I don't know if this is a total needle moving move for a team that wants to contend for a championship after making the Western Conference Finals just this previous season.